Hello and welcome back to the IVF Daddies podcast. Today I'm very excited because we have the team of Gaddies, and I am very excited to have this podcast with you, David. How are you?
Doing well and just dropped my kid off at school, so the hard part of the day is over.
What does that mean? Walk us through what is the hard part of the day.
Hard part of the day is getting a 4-year-old to do anything in the morning, and we all may have meetings and timelines and things to do, and they have none of it. So, chasing that butterfly, figuring out why their shoes don't fit on top of their head, all that is the important stuff to them as opposed to eat your food, get dressed, brush your teeth, get in the car, let's get it going.
I
So,
know, right? It's almost like
yeah.
we want the kids to have like a sense of time and priorities, like a full developed brain since day one.
And they're like, la di da di da di da di da. Yeah.
All they want is like, Daddy, let's spend
Yeah,
time together.
exactly. Exactly. Oh.
And what is the timing for school? What is the time that you have the kid in school?
So we're fortunate that so our kid is 4, and their daycare is open from 8 until 5. So they are there pretty much the full days most of the time.
That reminds me, when I was four, I had a daycare like that because my parents were lawyers in the corporate world. So I grew up pretty much of like my dad left for work when I was asleep and came back when I was asleep. And my mom was a lawyer. So I remember those daycares, like the school had like a nap time little bed for like the kids to when you're too young to be school. Like it's super. I think those, believe it or not, I have like good memories because then you grow up with those people and you get to have like social interaction, especially after the years that we just had with like isolation.
Yeah. No, I mean it's been great. So our kiddo was born right after vaccines came to be and right after preschool and daycare started. So he thankfully didn't miss socialization and didn't miss development and and all those things. So he was right there at the beginning, and now he's the oldest one in his school and causing a bit of mayhem because he's the oldest kid and he's bored and he's doing what kids who are old and bored do. So we're managing some of that.
It's so funny because there's this an age, I don't know until when, probably like, well, our kids are 13, they're twins, one boy, one girl, but it's like there's a time where it's just like if you're 1 year older, you're annoying.
And we are
So
definitely in that period where
yeah.
like he's got this his closest friend is a year younger, but there's such a difference in what he's able to do versus the friend, and he just knows how to pick every button and pick every point to annoy that kid to no end. So, half the day the teacher reports are they were the best friends today, and then half the day the report was your kid knew exactly what to do and was causing mayhem all day long. So you just sort of never know what you're gonna get.
Wait, I just noticed your nail color because I just mine are silver because I
Yeah, mine are like a lavender right now.
yeah, well, normally I get this like in between lavender and like neon
Hmm.
colors, but now I got them silver because I was in London. Now I'm in Ibiza. And let's walk through a little bit about the concept of how did you create Gaddies? And
Hmm.
I know that did it to find inclusion, create a space for you that was not.
Hmm.
What is that space for you mean?
Yeah, so professionally, I was working at Nike and I was working in the apparel division, and I was very tired of talking and thinking about straight people all day, like designing for straight people, thinking about them as our couple. And then around the same time, I became a parent and became very apparent to me that gay, queer dads were not visible anywhere in the marketplace, right? And the stuff that was made for us was usually pretty cheesy, pretty low quality, some sort of a rainbow splatter a couple times a year. But then the majority of the mom ecosystem, the parenting ecosystem, 98% focused on the person that's either producing the child or feeding the child. And I really felt isolated. And the first spark for me was actually being at the park. And there were these men who had some kids across the park and I was like, are those hipsters? Are those gay dads? Like, I got I want to know, but I don't know. And so I said, aha, what if we had something to wear, right? Like, what if we had something to assemble to, and kind of in the way of, no matter where you are in the world, if you see that nasty pig hat or symbol, you feel a connection to that person. You may feel one certain way or another, but you get who they are. And so that inspired me to combine my professional background, which was physical product, with the personal passion of building and forming community, and decided I want to build a brand for gay dads. Didn't take lots of research to realize that had never been done before. And then the next big step of it was coming up and creating the Gaddie or Gaddies, gay daddy or gay daddies. And that then became the name. And with that, you could create an identity and a community. And I think that also solved the need that for a lot of things that are queer parenting, it's very based in this influencer or that influencer. But I'm able to come in and sort of be this neutral platform where I can create really fun product, but also bring in information that parents at all stages are needing. And one of the other big insights for me was that the majority of conversations about what is it like to be a gay or queer dad start and stop at how did you start your family and how was the family created? And there wasn't a lot of dialogue. There wasn't a lot of discussion around what is life like when you are a parent of twins who are 12 and 13? And what is it like to help someone learn to go through menstruation or bra shopping if that's not something you have experience with?
No,
Or how
you're just hitting all the points that I'm going through
how
right
do
now.
you show up at your kid's school and introduce yourself? How do you engage in sports through your kids if your kids were that was not something that you were comfortable with? So that was really the idea, and I started working on it around a year ago this time in the fall of 2024. First step was talking to hundreds of gay dads around the world, talking to as many dads as I could to hear their insights, hear their pain points, hear what they were looking for, and then slowly started testing and pressing go, and really started pressing go in around May of this year, and it's just sort of been off to the races since then.
That is amazing that you're I would assume that when you had the realization of understanding my career is fashion photography until social media happened and photography got devaluated to a little square. Printing was not a priority. Magazines are reduced. But I grew up in New York as a fashion photographer, and I work with a lot of sportswear company. And yeah, there's a moment that we exist in Pride, and there's like a really cheesy. 1800s, like just put the first ever gay pride flag, not even the latest one, the
Yeah,
first ever, and then you sell something and they just remove it off the market. So
yeah.
I get that, and then like your realization happening versus starting the company in 2024, because I would ask that 2024 is very up to date to consider that we don't have a space for queer LGBTQAI plus community. Like that's kind of alarming.
Yeah, well, I think I try to be very declarative in some of the elements around this, and one of them is being very clear that gay and queer dads have always existed, right? Like we have existed as long as there have been parents. But what's new in the moment that we're living in is that over the last 2, 3 decades, enough people have been able to start doing it and living it authentically as themselves and starting and running their families in the way they would have ideally, that now you have this critical mass of people that I can reach as a consumer base, right? And so I think that's one of the big pieces of privilege that I talk a lot about, is that I get to sit here in Portland, Oregon, 2024, creating and dreaming and working on this idea only because of the hundreds and thousands of dads that have come in generations before me who weren't able to parent how they wanted to at all, the dads that came before me and during me that are still trying to figure it out. And then the dads that were able to start their families exactly how they wanted. And so, what I hope this or what I found this brand does is it's able to speak to a variety of different generations. So, we get younger queer people more visibility to be like, hey, if I want to be a parent, like, this is what it means to be a parent. And these stories don't just focus on the process of starting the family. They talk about being a family and staying true to yourself and connecting to all these different parts of your identity. And for those of us that are somewhere in the act of parenting, whether they're 2 months old or 25 years old, it's how do we talk to you about all the different things that are going on, right? And then the really beautiful thing I think is for my interactions, and curious to hear yours, but with older queer couples, right? So I'm almost 40. When I'm saying older, I'm sort of saying in the 70s, 80s time frame. Lots of times when you see them, you just have these beautiful, like unspoken moments of connection. But then a lot of times they will come over and start talking to us and our kid and just say how beautiful it is to see and how much they would have loved to have been parents, but that wasn't an option for them. And so Gaddies lets everyone sort of be able to relate to it in the way that makes sense.
Yeah, wow. That's actually really, really amazing. And I actually love the concept. And it almost, I don't know why, but you sound almost like if you're like a New Yorker movement kind of thing, where growing up in New York, I almost feel like everything's born in New York and then 5 years later it like hits like the rest of the world. And I think that what you're doing is amazing. But I would challenge you a little bit on part of the inclusion because I always say if you think being a dad is difficult, try being a stepdad. That,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're gay, straight, queer,
Mm-hmm.
blue, green, couch, lamp, human.
Yeah.
Just try to be a step parent without any
Step
representation.
Gaddy. Yeah. We had a really cool moment. First of all, I lived in New York. I did my time in New York, and then I was like, I got to get out of here. So maybe that's part of
Same.
what you hear. This summer, I did my first in-person events, and we did a couple of Pride events, which was really cool. And a couple weeks later, I got this note from this couple who were like, "Hey, you don't remember us, but we met you at the event, and we bought some shirts." And they said, and the guy said, I now call myself a step gaddy, and that's how my 4 year old refers to me as. And we have that terminology now because of you to sort of describe our family dynamics. And that was, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Great.
it's
I was like, that was a really fucking cool moment where this person was like, hey, we've been struggling to figure out like how do we describe, hey, your parent was with a woman and now they're not, and now they're with a man, and now who is this man? But like, oh, I'm your stepdaddy, and that's what it is. So that was a really amazing moment to be like, whoa, this is, a
well. I
word that
mean,
I made up. And
hook me up because I might need a T-shirt that says Steph Gaddy too.
yeah,
And actually, I'm wearing this. I also have I have them in London, but I also have a lot of like IVF daddies. For us, is because my story is I started dating Richard, and Richard suddenly has twins. Uh, uh, and then he had a twin with another man. Imagine every time, like the most typical conversation is like, "Oh, so Richard was married to a woman," and it's just like, "No, no, no. Richard was married to a man. What do you like? How? Wait. So, but the twins are 13 now. I'm like, yeah, they had the kids through IVF and surrogacy from London. They went to US because it is through surrogacy is the most legal framework that will protect you
in the US.
in the US. So if you, some people, a friend is in Argentina and cannot leave because the baby belongs to the surrogate. So like the US is the gold standard for paperwork. So they went to the US, came back, oh amazing. So then for me is imagine dating somebody with kids, let alone with kid with two men, let
Yeah.
alone three generations of men for two kids. And then all I decided to do is I am going to educate myself on how these kids were born so I don't say or ask a question that will trigger them, or I don't know what's allowed or not allowed to say. So then until now, we have Father's Day together, the three of us with the kids, and with the three of us receive a Father's Day card, which is like when you don't make them say it, when it comes from them and you don't claim the title, is like the most epic thing ever. Like I love Richard. I love Richard with the kids. I love the kids, and I have the same amount of feminine energy. And I can be doing tower defense and Fortnite with one hand, and skincare routine with another hand, and getting my nails done with our daughter. And that puts me in a category where I am very new at this. But I remember Richard telling me 13 years ago it was difficult. I didn't want to get rejected. I didn't want to get my kids rejected. So unconsciously, they raised their kids as heteronormative as possible when they had all the possibilities to do
Mm.
break all the rules. Not break the rules, but you're gay parents, and then you're hiding because they come from banking, finance background. So they were under the I want my kids to be invited to parties, to be, and then I come here like a hurricane, and sometimes Richard's like talk about the weather. The moms are dying for me to get on the PTA meeting classes. Richard's like, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. So how do you start the conversation of inclusion in your house with your partner, your family, your circle of people that matter to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, my husband, we've been together 15 years and we both have a variety of strengths that fall into different traditional norms, right? Like, I really enjoy cleaning and I am the sports guy. And Rafi is thankfully an incredible cook and can fix anything, right? So I think just sort of by virtue of who we were as a partner, and we have worked so well for 15 years because we're really good at giving each other space to focus on what matters most. Like, our kiddo knows that there are some questions that he'll turn to ask me, and then he just goes, "That's an Abba question, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's an Abba question." Or he'll be talking to his Abba, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's a daddy question," and he'll be like, "That's a daddy question." So we've been able to pretty seamlessly fall into these rules, but also understanding the joy that, like, we don't have any rules to follow. And I think when people talk about, like, what do they wish that gay parents knew or could share, it's that, like, we don't have thousands of years of the patriarchy and the system telling us exactly what one of us is supposed to be doing and what the other one is supposed to be doing. And that comes with downsides too, right? Like, we don't have role models. We're building role models now and we're trying to show what that can look like, but we don't inherently grow up with an expectation of this is who I am and this is who I'm going to have to be. And one of our we've made some new friends here, and he grew up with two moms. He's a gay dad. He grew up with two moms, and seeing it in sort of now like a second generation of, whoa, he grew up in the space where the moms did everything together and it was a true partnership. And that's the mindset that he took in with his current partner, and they're also now figuring out what works for them, instead of the understanding. And like, my favorite thing is to be on text chains where I'm the only gay dad, and you just have all these other people, and I just like cause chaos, and I'm just like, did any of you fucking do anything useful for your partner or your kid today? And like, the number one every year is, I'm always in like September, November, I'm always like, all right, like, what are the kids getting for the holidays? And they always go, I don't know, we'll see when they open up the gifts on that morning. And I'm just like, I need
Like
you to
what? And you're
I
like,
need like
hello? Like, what about the excitement and the planning and knowing
just do
exactly?
better. Or like a buddy, they had triplets and then another one, and he never changed a single diaper. And I'm just like, it's really hard for me to be your friend right now. Like, I need you to take a
Yeah,
long look in that mirror.
it's like, for us is the when it comes to the Christmas tree, like I pretend to let them do two or three ornaments, but the rest of the tree is mine.
Yeah, sounds like it should be. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not a family event. It's like I've been planning this color palette for years.
Yeah. Or even like, so again, our kid is 4, he's not in kindergarten. And this is where this comes from, like a lot of privilege that I am a white man who looks a certain way and lives a certain life. And when people ask us to do things, my answer is like, I just don't see straight people on the weekend. Like, I'm not coming to that birthday party. I'm not going to do that. I have to deal with straight people all week. On the weekends, it's going to be me, my friends, my gay dad, my lesbian mom friends, and non parent queer friends. And like, that's it.
So
But
explain that a little bit to me. Like when you say I don't see straight people on the weekend, what is your interaction during the week that make
like
you?
after school park, we can be Will and Grace all the time. Like we hang out at the park all the afternoon after school, and then they'll be like, "Hey, do you want to come for a play date on Saturday?" And I'll be like, "I do not. I don't actually see straight people on the weekends."
But if your kid wants like is really good friends with the
So that's going to change starting in about a year, right? So, once he gets into kindergarten and once everyone gets invited to the classes and he starts to really have friends, then I'm gonna have to go see straight people on the weekend. But like
Mhm.
for right now, I'm holding out these last couple of months where I can control a little bit of who we spend our time with. And it's also nice because all the gay or queer families that we're friends with, he's the youngest kid, so he gets to be with much older kids,
No
which is a
wonder he's
good
annoyed
thing.
at school.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I don't, and even in my work job now, basically the only straight people I talk to are my parents and my sister every day. And it's the greatest thing ever. Like I've just sort of created this cocoon of queerness.
So you just said something that really caught my attention. He's the youngest in your gay community. So in your circle of gay dads, what is the
Mhm.
oldest?
The oldest of the ones that we see regularly, meaning like at least once a month, is around 7. And then there's a couple like 5, 6, 7. So we were very lucky that we found this group of both A, dads that we like, and B, the kids were within 4 to 5 years. And so we were able to make it work. I think that's one of the, I hear from a lot of gay dads now around the world. And that's one of the biggest challenges, right? Is like, oh, we've met other gay dad, like we met the other gay dads in our town, but their kid is 3 months old and our kid is 14. And so, like, unless we're both going to get a babysitter, it's kind of hard to go figure something out. So, I think
Yeah,
that is something that
that it
is
was
not
gonna
only
be
you have
my
to like the parents, but the parents have to be around the same age stage as
yeah,
you.
that was my follow-up question because how did you do it? Like how can you just for our audience, how can you guide people to find that? Because sometimes it could be like almost like a random meeting of like hey, that you have nothing in common or
Yeah,
like you say the kid or you need to make sure that the kids like each other. You need to
yeah.
make sure that you know.
So, I think the answer is like it takes effort, So there are really two main. So we've lived in New York, Chicago, Amsterdam, Spain, South Africa, and Portland, and so we sort of have moved around, and each time, like I'm the one responsible to go make friends. My husband, his ideal lifestyle is COVID, where like he doesn't have to talk to anyone, he doesn't have to do anything. Yeah. And so I was like, listen, where do gay people hang out? And so really I focused on two areas, the gay sport leagues and then the gay dating apps. And so I went on like a lot of first dates with people that said they had kids that I met through either one of those. And like we would just go get a coffee or hang out. Then maybe the second time, we would bring our kid, and then after those two times, I'd come back and be like, hey, Rafi, like they seem pretty cool. Their kid is within a year. They're not awful. We need friends. Let's go give it a go. But
It's
you have to
really a
be
lot. It's really a
intentional.
lot of work of due diligence, which it shouldn't
Yeah.
be, right? It shouldn't be
Yeah.
like our kids are the only uh, kids with gay parents in the entire like in their school
Yeah. But
that we.
even when I talk to dads that live in New York or LA or London, there's that immediate circle that's, hey, you might be fortunate to have other gay dads at your school that you like, that your kids like, that are around the same age. That's sort of like the dream. setup, right? But then outside of that, you've got friends that want to introduce you, you've got community groups, whether that's a sports league, a religious institution, something else. And then you've got places that gays hang out. So you've got the gym, you've got the bar, you've got the different apps. And you really just need to be like honest and intentional about why you're there and put yourself out there a little bit if it's worth trying to find some of those connections.
Well, I believe that was like the blueprint for what you have built now. Now I think this should be a lot easier. Now they come to you for advice, or like us, we're doing a
Yeah, I
podcast.
get that a lot. I get a lot of like, hey, I just moved to Atlanta. Do you know any other? And like, I love connecting people, right? That is certainly like a whole other business model and
The
definitely
gay
one that
Facebook.
yeah, like definitely one that I thought about at the beginning was, all right, no one has really cracked the like gay dad community code. It's this Facebook group or this Facebook book or gay dad Reddit or, you know, whatever it may be. That can come down the road, right? I think what you're starting to see, which has been really cool, is examples where I get messages from dads of, I was in the airport, I was wearing my Gaddies hat. This guy came up to me. He was a little bit older. We weren't really sure what to expect, but he was like, hey, I see your hat. Does that stand for gay daddies? Because that's me. I have a 35-year-old son, you know. And so then they started talking, and then I don't know if you remember misconnections on Craigslist, but
Oh
we're
my God.
gonna,
Yeah, I only knew about it. I mean, I was born in Venezuela, so coming to New York,
yeah,
I knew because a friend of mine wanted to go on a date with me, put it on Craigslist. I'm like, I don't even know what Craigslist is.
yeah. So we're gonna put one up because this dad messaged me and he was like, hey, I was on this flight from Denver to New York, and my husband and I saw this dad wearing your Caught in a Dad Romance shirt at the front of the plane, but we never really got a chance to play with him. And we live in New York and or Jersey, and we want to know if he lives there too to be our friend. And so you're starting to get like exactly what I hoped would happen, where people are using this physical product to find new connections, to find new ways to build community and bring it in. And that's the super exciting piece.
Yeah, which is exactly also what we're saying, what we're doing too. And then it comes like the syndrome of authority when you have a podcast or a platform. I literally am educating myself, and then I suddenly come across that I am the source that knows everything, and people come at me for every single type of advice. Like, what formula did you give to your kid? I'm like, literally, when I asked Richard, why did you buy this formula? I'm like, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like at this point, I think I know more gay dad data than most people. Also,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like, dad send me so many dick pics. Like,
Oh my
just
God. No, we have a
no introduction, just dick pics.
So Richard is more of like networking, and I'm more of a hermit. He's like hasn't even say hello, and they already exchange information, phone numbers, and get together. And now we have a dinner plan. And I am just like I am barely trying to be present. Like I am trying to not overthink every situation
Barely
and be
trying to be
present.
present. It's a good book memo.
And I always tell people like, okay, so Richard is gonna get your phone number because I am like, I will like, I terrible with names. I'm terrible with like following or catching up with people, and I have like three friends where I bombard them with memes. And if I have anything on my DM, like it's buried on the meme list, so I haven't even gotten. I have like 172 WhatsApps on red. So yeah, I'm like if you want to get to me, Richard has to be the one that like comes and deal with the
He's the
communication
gatekeeper.
because I'm the builder and the hermit, creating everything and try to hide. Like when it rains, I'm happy. Like in London, I was just like, oh, an opportunity to. Now they're at the beach because we're in Ibiza, and for me, is like heaven to stay at home. But then this is the thing, right? So I love staying at home playing video games. I'm 39, and I also think like I need to get now safe to put my skincare when I'm not in the house because our daughter might probably take it from me. So I I was talking to my kids uh, these past 2 days, and the inclusion that turns and binary, non-binary, they, them, he, she, and now it's just like I don't consider myself as a gay. Like we were talking about, what is a gay man or is he gay? I'm like, a gay man likes a man that is manly. If you queer people like something that could bend genders or bend stereotypes, then Richard was like, "Can you just focus on like just gay men, lesbian, straight, and that's it?" I'm just like, no, because I don't feel like I am. But as an immigrant, if it works for me to act like a gay man, I will do it. I have done CrossFit for years. I play soccer in New York in the gay soccer league because I didn't want to meet people at bars. And the apps, like anything related to dick pics, what you were saying, for me was like kind of like, ugh. So if we could invent like a friend gay app that you can just like, hi, I have kids and I'm gay and I'm in the
Yeah.
neighborhood, like, like that would be my ideal goal. But yeah, we have gotten a lot of conversation of like we get a lot of that too. And so what is your context on step parenting and the IVF and the sorry sausages? So, what is your context on the step parenting in the gay world around your circle? Do you have any form of active representation of it?
Yeah, so statistics in the US, these are US specific, was around 70% of men who identify as gay dads. Those children were created through heterosexual relationships with women, right? And then the men came out at a later point. So you have a lot of stepdads who became the partner of a dad that had a child through a prior relationship. And those are typically later in life. You also now have, because, guess what? Gays get divorced as well. Not at nearly as a higher rate, but they get divorced. So you have dads that are having kids in their 30s and then splitting up and then meeting other people and becoming a step gaddy, And so one of the conversations we have with people is, what has it been like to be a gay man who was never focused on having children, but then you fell in love with someone who has a child, and congrats, now you're a stepdaddy, and all those pieces that come with it, and a whole learning curve of life, and a whole learning curve of, I'm going to have to come out this way and I'm going to have to come out that way because, yes, I'm coming out as a parent, but I'm also coming out as a step parent and navigating those pieces together. I think about it a lot as sort of trying to bring visibility to parts of the parenting community that are on the edges and aren't discussed enough, because I do think when we talk about queer parenting, it's typically the couple that is doing surrogacy and having the baby from birth, or the couple that is doing adoption and having the baby from birth. And the actuality is like those are underrepresent the totality of the different ways that our families come together through fostering, through adoption when older, through kids with women. And so I think now that I've been doing this a couple months, one of the things that I am trying to, stay true to is, where and how am I showing those different types of families, but in an authentic way. Sausages, this is just a question for you. When do you think this will air? Because that will depend what I say next.
Do you have a specific date?
No, I was just going to say something about, because this Sunday is Transgender Parent Day, and we're doing something about that. So I could either talk to it in present tense, or if it will air after this week, then
You
I
can talk
talk
about it
about it.
in present tense, and I can do the clip of it as a coming up.
Cool. Okay. Sausages. This Sunday is National Transgender Parents Day, right? And we have a lot of transgender dads in our community. Some of those, the fact that they are transgender parent is a really important part of their identity. Some, just being a parent is the identity, but being a space where we can honor and recognize both of those and say, hey, if Gaddies is here to spotlight, celebrate, and highlight the different members of our community, if this is the way that you want to choose to do it, and this matters to you, well, then we're going to do it that way, and we're going to do it the best that we can, so it doesn't just feel like we're throwing you up on this date. I will say specifically when it's come to trans or non-binary gay parents, the last couple months, even ones that had been pretty visible online, have just totally pullen away because they have been trying to protect themselves, protect their mental health, protect their physical health. And I obviously am never going to force or ask someone to do something for the good of the brand that isn't for the good of them. But you do meet people who sort of say, nope, this is who we are. This is what I want to do. So on that day, we will donate all portions of sales to the Transgender Law Center. And as a brand, it's about figuring out how are you conveying that in an authentic message and not just feeling like you're popping up for a day, putting up a different type of rainbow and then going away. But part of that is like finding the community and earning the trust with that community that they can feel comfortable and they can feel safe. Because we've had transgender dads be featured already. They just didn't want to be identified as transgender dad. So it's like, great, here's just a dad. Whereas now we have some people who want that to be part of how we speak about them and how we tell their story.
I totally understand what you're saying because we get a lot of, especially in the transgender community, we get a lot of stories in general from heteronormative, heterosexual, from people that have to go to different routes of having a family.
Yeah.
But transgender community, we get a lot of like, can you please share my story? But I don't want to risk it for my job. I don't want to risk it for my family. So they
Yeah.
send us their story. We talk, we have a phone call, an interview with them. Sometimes we do it without showing their faces in an audio podcast. Sometimes Richard and I talk about the story, or sometimes we go to a specialist and we debunk whatever questions they have because some things that like medication for being a parent, a transgender parent can trigger body dysmorphia if you have to
Mm-hmm.
stop certain hormones or not. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even a dad. I'm a step parent.
You're a parent. You're a
Well, I mean,
Gaddy.
yeah. One of the things that I always say that being a step parent is like walking on a tightrope, and when you fall down, what matters is who shows up and who chooses to climb up with you.
Mm.
That to me is parenting. Actually, Richard, his godmother was like his mother to him. And for me, the best thing could ever happen to me was my parents getting divorced and remarried again. And my dad had the most beautiful sisters he could ever give to me. And his second wife was my second mom. Like my brother walked down the aisle with my two moms, and my sister walked down the aisle with my two dads. And yeah, so step parenting is who chooses parenting is who chooses to show up.
Mm.
Yeah, now is coming up with a lot of information requests or stories to be told about representation in the transgender community. So anything that we can do to celebrate Transgender Father's Day, we'll definitely do.
Yeah, and I had these big dreams, right? Of, we have Mother's Day, we have Father's Day. I really want to launch Gaddies Day, like a day, because even Mother's and Father's Day, they can be very tricky for our families, right? So, like this
Yeah.
day that's solely focused on us, that you could have your own marketplace moment and all these pieces together. But I also say part of part of trying to show some of the stories that are important to our community are not always as easy as saying, hey, I want to show these stories. So, for instance, transracial adoption, as an example, there are queer families are much more likely to have a transracial adoption as part of their story, but not all of them want to talk about it when they highlight their family. And there are some families that I've talked to where they were living in one, mostly in the US, living in one part of the US, maybe adopted children who are of different race than the parents and of the majority of the town, and then chose to move to a different part of the country where their children could be surrounded by either family or people that look like them. But they haven't felt comfortable wanting that to be part of their story, right? And I can't and I won't force people to share it more than they want. But we do get questions around when are you going to talk about some of the more serious topics of, transracial adoption or intergenerational. And I also can't answer back and be like, well, look at that story from 3 weeks ago. That's actually exactly who you're talking about. But we purposely didn't frame it that way. We just presented it as this is the family, you know?
Well,
So
that's it. That's the power of a platform like social media or a podcast or
yeah,
YouTube. You get to, you're not bounded to forced to, just because you have created space, you're not obligated to be all of it. So this
yeah.
is my probably the question that I want to close this, because I mean I can talk forever about this, and with you, if I don't can believe we've already 42 minutes in it. The last question that I want to ask you: what would you consider for you to be an unconscious bias that sometimes shows up in you or in your family, that you're like, oh my god, I'm trying to find space for me, and then I can still see that I am just like, there's a part of heteronormative in me that just like appeared out of the norm, out of the blue.
Think in many ways we're all still trying to unlearn the ways that we were parented. And there are things that I will say or phrases that come out of my mouth that I hear verbatim my father have said. And, and I had an amazing father, loved him. But there were stuff that was pretty rigid and defined. And when I hear me say those to my kid, I'm just like,
Like
so
just to quote a famous wise queen, I've just become my mother.
yeah, exactly. And I think that has a lot to do with patience and roles that we would play or not play, of like him saying, go help your mother. And in my mind, I wanted to be like, bitch, you go fucking do that. Right? Like, that's not mom's job. And so when I hear myself saying, go help Abba, or I'm like, that's we're gonna make a change. We're gonna make a change. But yeah, I think definitely before becoming a parent, not fully understanding the good and the bad of how much influence the way that you were parented would show up in how you engage your children, and engage, and again, in ways very positive for some and very negative for one, but just how much active and intentional unlearning one has to do.
Well, one of the things that I say is that when I look at people like you, like the way they did it was amazing. They did everything they can with the limited resources to try to be better than their parents. And look at where you turn out, to creating community, creating space. So that comes from parents. And yeah, sometimes we get like, oh my God, I just said what my dad used to say to me all the
Yeah.
time. I cannot. I'm
Well,
trying to like not.
to that, everything that I do is a result of my mom. Like, my mom was a beast, but like solely focused on building community, solely focused on breaking down barriers, solely focused on cutting through bullshit and taking no crap for anyone, and treating people like, from when I was, and actually have it now, from when I was very young, she used to run in this shirt daily. It had a picture of a white child and a black child, and it just said, nobody is born a bigot. And that phrase like really stuck in my brain because I saw it every Saturday when she went for a run. And now I have the t-shirt. So in the
Kudos
ways
to
that we,
her.
yeah, I know. In the ways that we do try to unlearn a lot, there are some where, in a very like high pressure way of, my mom is this amazing woman who has accomplished all these amazing things, and in part because I've realized she only sleeps 4 hours a night and only needs 4 hours of sleep a night, and I get to be like, that's for you, not for me. But taking the good and the bad and then adjusting it into our own style. And Simon, or my child, he knew how to spell his name the first in his class because his name is always painted on my nails. Right. And like little things like that, where he's able to spell Gaddies and gets excited when a Gaddies shirt comes up, and feel that sense of pride, and know that, his dad makes a gay dad shirt, kind of thing, is pretty
That's really
exciting.
cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for being a beacon of hope and light to the IVF Daddies community,
Yeah.
and to tell our audience where can they find your stuff.
Yep. So on the website, we're at HEYGADDIES.com. That's our full website with all our merchandise. And then on Instagram, we are at HEYGADDIES. Hey Gaddies.
We'll have them right down here
Yeah.
so you can all click. And
And we're getting into the holiday season, so we're going to have a bunch of fun activations and discounts and sales and stories. And also, I'll give you the link to sign up for Only Gads, which is our community newsletter and also has a bunch of really good stuff.
Obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
congratulations and thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure, and I hope
yeah,
we
thanks for
can.
having me on.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.